Okay, we'll call the May 24th meeting of the Planning Commission to order. We'll begin with the pledge to the flag. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Jess, would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Sidoti.
Here.
Mr. Tiedemann.
Here.
Mr. Varga.
Here.
Mr. Cicero.
Excused.
Mr. Cook.
Here.
Mr. Perkovic.
Here.
Mr. Snow.
Here. Entertain a motion for the approval of the minutes of the May 3rd meeting.
So moved?
Second.
Mr. Sidoti.
Yes.
Mr. Tiedemann.
Yes.
Mr. Varga.
Yes.
Mr. Cook.
Yes.
Mr. Perkovic.
Yes.
Mr. Snow.
Abstain. 4 public hearings this evening. The format we follow for the public hearing is we allow the applicant an opportunity to tell us what they want to do at a particular location. Then anyone else wishing to speak in favor is afforded an opportunity. Then those wishing to speak against are given a similar opportunity. So with that in mind, first one tonight is a conditional use permit to allow a temporary event car show at 4689 Corduroy Road. I see the applicants here, so if you'd identify yourself for the clerk, please, and then go right ahead.
I'm Mike Shepard. All I'm proposing is to throw my second annual car show, which is also a concert, which has an amplified audio device. It's basically, it is what it is. We're throwing for the second year in a row. My personal community party, and if it goes well, I'd probably like to do it again and make a fall one.
Okay. Anyone else wishing to speak in favor? Anyone wishing to speak against? Okay, we'll close the public hearing. Any comments from the administration?
None.
Do we have any problems last year?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay,
We do have our own private security, so anything that's looking like it's about to happen will be put it off the property.
Gotcha.
No problems.
okay. Commissioners?
EMS, I do have an, kind of like an addendum. A, which was EMS and fire, has now been moved to where the library's at. The library has allowed the parking lot for the event, which allows us more room. As far as entrance and stuff for the employees or customers of IGA. So we moved A to the library, which is right next to H on the pictures. They have more access. I mean, there's more things going on there where they can get out quicker, if you know what I mean.
Okay. Mr. Zeman, any questions that you may have?
No, I'd say I'd recommend maybe just in case there is any hiccups with the library, maybe approve it as submitted with.
Already had it
with-
approved, and I did not bring the paper, but they are totally on board.
Yeah, it's that not having the paperwork thing. So but I think we'll cure it like this. Just indicate that it's approved as submitted. However, the library is approved as an alternate location for EMS and fire.
You read the staff report. You understand the conditions that were listed in there?
Yes, sir.
Okay. You have any problem with any of those?
Not a thing, no.
Okay,
Same thing as last year,
okay.
a little bit bigger, I'm hoping. We only had 7 cars last year, and I want a better car count at least.
Okay. And commissioners, any questions for the applicant or the administration? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to approve with the 7 noted conditions.
And the 8th one would be Mr. Zeman's qualifying statement.
The library is approved as an alternate location for fire EMS.
That would be the 8th condition.
Okay.
Seconded.
Jess, when you're ready.
Mr. Sidoti.
Yes.
Mr. Tiedemann.
Yes.
Mr. Varga.
Yes.
Mr. Cook.
Yes.
Mr. Perkovic.
Yes.
Mr. Snow.
Yes,
Good luck.
you're good.
Thank
Have
you.
fun.
If you guys ain't doing it that day, maybe stop by and see what we got going on.
Could happen. Thank you.
Second public hearing, conditional use permit to allow a temporary event open house at 5782 Heisley Road. Go right ahead.
My name's Steve Schultz. I'm the manager of Mentor MFG. I'm here on behalf of Pierre Hodgins. He couldn't make it. We're having an open house on the 2nd of June, and we just want to be able to put a 10 by 10 tent in the parking lot and just a Kubota flag in the grass area. We are going to have a live radio broadcast, but that's going to be in the store, so there
Won't be any conflict there.
nothing outside. I have a
So,
van parked out in the parking lot, but
okay.
it's just WKKY, and they're pretty,
They've been doing this a lot of times, so they get it.
yep, they understand how it works.
Okay. So any problems with the flag? I mean, the flag will only be there during your event, is that correct?
8 to 4, correct.
Okay,
Well, if you- yeah, at your
So-
discretion, yeah, because it is otherwise prohibited, so,
right. So we could say the flag is permitted to fly during the event
only. yeah.
only. So your responsibility is to take the flag down when, no, I'm kidding.
At 4:01,
401. Commissioners, any questions for the applicant?
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Sidoti?
there's plenty of parking, I imagine, in the rear for the visitors or attendees for this?
correct.
Okay.
We're just going to have our 2 parking pads, our 4 machines underneath the overhang, and have our entrance not blocked, so.
And they just go in the back and park in the park? Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Any other questions, commissioners? Entertain a motion. Fifth stipulation would be the flag flies during the event only.
I'll make a motion to approve with 5 conditions, the fifth being the flag may fly during their event from 8 to 4.
Second.
That's when you're ready.
Mr. Sidoti?
Yes.
Mr. Tiedemann?
Yes.
Mr. Varga?
Yes.
Mr. Cook?
Yes.
Mr. Perkovic?
Yes.
Mr. Snow?
Yes.
Thank you.
Good. Conditional use permit to allow a fence contractor is a similar use at 9020 Osborne Drive. Which begs the question, similar to what, Larry? I'm kidding. Go right ahead.
Anthony Bresci from Fence Options, DBA Henry Fence.
And give us a little overview of what you want to do.
We have a storage area behind the building, open area. We'd like to store some fence materials. Obviously pave it, be able to get behind the building, and obviously fence it off. So the neighbors don't see us behind anything that we have stored behind there, and obviously keep anybody that doesn't belong there out of there.
Okay. Anyone else wishing to speak in favor? Anyone wishing to speak against? Okay, we'll close the public portion. Any comments from the administration?
No, Mr. Chairman.
Commissioners, questions for the applicant or the administration? You've read the staff report, you've seen the conditions that are listed. You have no problem with any of those conditions?
Nope.
Okay.
They propose some permeable pavement for storage area,
Okay.
just to avoid the drainage issues, if there are any.
In lieu of the gravel?
We'll do everything, yeah. We might just do the whole area in permeable pavement. Our sister company is a pavement company, so.
That's better.
Works for me.
We were in support of that for that very reason,
Yeah.
permeability.
Okay. So you agreeing to do that then?
We're considering it, yeah. Yeah, we work hand in hand with Unilock on a daily basis, and it's something that they're right behind us, so.
Okay. So how do we resolve whether you're going to do it or not going to do it?
Good question.
Well, the one area up against the building, we look at a 50 by 50 area, we're looking at approximately 2,500 square feet in that general area. So what we'd like to do is actually get engineers, Unilock's engineers, come in and see what the soil content is there, which is a lot of sand, and just get some specs from them and see what the cost would be, as opposed to doing solid pavement. Because we look at it now, to do any gravel area might just be, might as well just put all concrete, asphalt, or permeable pavement.
Okay, so how
The
do
more we keep diving into it, we keep looking at, if we did permeable pavement, the nice thing is it's a lifetime warranty. We don't have any drainage issues, and we obviously have something attractive, so.
Okay. Go right ahead.
Well, Mr. Chairman, they did indicate that they were only going to pave a portion of it, well, is already paved with asphalt, so as long as they conform to what is proposed, the gravel area is still permeable, so we would be okay with that.
Okay.
If they pursue more, then that's great, but, I mean, as proposed, as long as they don't pave the rest of the storage area.
So we want the drainage is what
Yep.
we want. Okay. Which I assume is what you want as well.
Permeable pavers it is.
It is.
It stays clean, it's a nice surface.
Yeah.
Commissioners, any additional questions? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to approve with 5 conditions. And I take it we're not going to put in the language of the concrete or asphalt or permeable pavers. Just let it go the way it is.
Once you decide whether you're going to do the pavers or not, I think you need to at least make the city aware that that's what you agree.
Absolutely.
Right.
Okay?
Yeah.
Well, at this point, we're only allowing gravel or the permeable pavers. That's,
Right.
concrete is out.
Concrete's out.
Concrete's out, based on this approval.
But we want to be sure that if you do the permeable pavers, that we know that you did that,
Yeah.
so.
All right, well, should we add a 6th condition that should the applicant determine, if the applicant determines to install permeable pavers or asphalt, they must return to the city or report to the city of this decision?
That's what they've done? Or that's what they want to do? Is that fine?
They'll want to get approval from the building department anyway, so.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, we're good.
All right.
Okay. Was that a motion?
Yes.
Is there a second?
And explain to her what the motion is. I see that.
It's just with the five
It's
conditions.
just with the 5, we're not adding a 6th?
No.
Okay,
Right.
right, sorry.
If we need a second,
I'll second.
Now you can call the roll.
all set. Mr. Sidoti.
Yes.
Mr. Tiedemann.
Yes.
Mr. Varga.
Yes.
Mr. Cook.
Yes.
Mr. Perkovic.
Yes.
Mr. Snow.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a great weekend.
Okay. Conditional use permit to allow a salon and spa services that has a similar use to 6,000 Heisley Road. Did you bring any samples?
Samples? No, I didn't. No. I'm Brittany Zendarczyk. I'm proposing to put a salon at Heisley Racquet Club.
Okay.
So I'm going to be doing similar to like the salon lofts on Menor Avenue or in Center Street. It's all individual rooms. There'll be 9 rooms, 7 hair, 1 for nail, and then 1 for massage.
Okay. Anyone wishing to speak in favor? Anyone wishing to speak against? Okay, we'll close the public portion. Any comments from the administration?
No,
We've
no, sir.
indicated in the staff report that the commissioners previously approved certain locations around the city for this type of activity. So with that in mind, any questions from the commissioners?
Mr. Chairman?
Go right ahead.
You're not changing the outside of the building at all, are you?
No, nothing outside.
Are you placing a sign or removing any signs?
There will be a sign next to, there's a curtain sign for AGM therapy upstairs, so it'll just be placed right next to it.
On the outside of the building?
Outside,
And you'll go
yes.
through the process of getting a sign approval for that?
Yes, I'm actually in the process of that now.
And will you be increasing, in your opinion, are you going to be increasing the demand for parking for this facility based on its previous use?
You know, it's hard to say because I do know that a lot of the members there will be using it. So some of the clients that'll be using,
Will
this-
already be there?
yes, but there will be some new clients coming in also, but there's more than adequate parking.
That's,
Okay.
that's okay.
Any other questions?
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Sidoti?
upon entering the racket club, where is this salon going to be located, on the first floor?
It is, yes.
Okay.
So, are you familiar with the?
Yeah.
So before you actually walk into the main club, on the left, there actually used to be a party center below, so it's the
Right.
party center, so that's actually the space that I'm taking over.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And just as a point of information, isn't a 24-hour salon a little too much or too dangerous?
No, I do agree with that. So I'm currently like at Salon Loft. So I think just the flexibility. I think they just say 24 hours, 7 days a week, just to make it look a little bit, to appear a little bit better. But I'd say like being up there, the latest that anyone's ever been there is like 10 o'clock. But they do like come 7 days a week. But there's absolutely no walk-ins. Like usually it's only appointment only. So if we're there, like you're locking the door and like behind you if you are there that late.
And each beautician schedules their own appointments?
Yes, they all have their own scheduling system, and like I said, it's by appointment only. I've been up at Salon Lofts now for 6 years. I've never once had a walk-in, so it is appointment only.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
You okay? Okay. Any other questions? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve with the 2 conditions.
Second.
Just when you're ready.
Mr. Sidoti.
Yes.
Mr. Tiedemann.
Yes.
Mr. Varga.
Yes.
Mr. Cook.
Yes.
Mr. Perkovic.
Yes.
Mr. Snow.
Yes. Good luck.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Under old business, item 5 is tabled at a previous meeting, will remain on the table this evening, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Under new business, architectural review, reimaging of a commercial building at 7850 Menor Avenue. Our good friends from round 1. Back with
Welcome to Prana, that's right. Thank
back with yet another change.
That's correct. Well, yes.
Go right ahead.
All right, well, Matt Jerkowitz, Washington Prime Group, company that owns the project, and our tenant, Round 1, recently opened, and when they were getting closer to opening, they made it clear to us that their corporate logo and scheme was modifying to a red background on white lettering on red background versus a red lettering on white background. That necessitated a few changes. They initially had looked to do a broader rebranding with a different color scheme. That was rejected at the last hearing of the Planning Commission.
That was the black scheme?
The black scheme.
Okay.
I understand the concern. So I think that where we are right now is the original paint scheme with some slight modifications to accommodate the red lettering or the replacement of the red lettering with the white. So the plan that you see here in front of you, you can see this this large red box was previously the cream color, and the white lettering was previously red. That's the change that you see on this facade, the only one. And the other facade, this would be the Mentor Avenue facade. Okay. You can see this used to have lines that came up to red lettering. What we did was we infilled the red background here to facilitate visibility to the white lettering. There's also two pieces of the facade here and here, if you're looking at the page, that were infilled with red. And that was a decision in the field that seemed to be appropriate given what was happening with shadows and such. So those are the changes that are being requested today.
Okay. Commissioners, any questions or comments?
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Sidoti?
I just have one concern. I drove to the facility yesterday, and it looks good, looks nice. But I do have a concern. In the report, it says the administration would note that the proposed color scheme for the building has already been completed. So it's kind of, you're seeking approval. You took an awful risk. What if we turned it down? We didn't like it.
Right.
Then what
so-
happens? And I take it, honestly, this is my opinion, I take it as an insult to the planning commission that it was handled this way.
Well, I do apologize for that. The sequence of events made it impossible for us to be able to come back in for consent prior to the opening of the store. So effectively, this is the first hearing we were able to get on the agenda to come and speak with you all about this change. The change itself was somewhat news to the landlord, to the property owner. Not somewhat, it was news to us. And the risk, to your point, of not having approval rests solely with our tenant. So we've made clear to them the risk. We've explained to them that, at the end of the day, these are things that happen in an ordinary course. And their request was that we go ahead, move forward so that we could accommodate the grand opening with the signs that they had ordered, the white signs. And we agreed to do that, knowing that, it is true that there's a possibility that they would not get the consent that they sought. Our hope and our feeling, and when we were analyzing the request from the tenant, was that, it is at this point their trade dress. Having worked with the commission in the past, I felt it was something that, barring some concerns that were unforeseen, there would be some willingness to accommodate. But they are fully aware that this commission has the ability to say no. And they would have the obligation at that time to switch out the glass on the lettering, and they would pay the cost of having the paint scheme inverted. So.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Any other comments or questions?
Mr. Chairman?
Mr. Varga?
This is just more of an observation that I'd like to get a response to. The original scheme, we have the image in front of us. I noticed that all the horizontal lines, these red lines, are significantly thinner on the actual building than on the presentation that was approved. Why is it not the same as what we approved?
Yes, so when the team in the field was actually painting, it's fair, by the way, that it is, they are thinner.
Yeah, much, about half, maybe more than half.
Yeah, so when
Less
we
than
went into the field and we were actually executing the paint scheme, what proved to be the case is that when you're standing in front of the building, the lines that we were grabbing and pulling across were at least proportionately not on the building where we thought they would. So the rendering that you see here, if you see, let me actually depict this.
I mean, even on that rendering, which is the updated, yeah.
Yeah, I wanted to put this up here because I assumed that this might be something that came up. When you see this line here, and then you see the actual rendering of the lettering on the building, you can see that the spacing is not consistent on the two things. So when we got into the field and these were actually installed, the condition that you see here is different than the condition that you see on that rendering, and that is the reason for the line spacing and the line thickness to be what it is. It was an attempt to try and make this as aesthetically pleasing as possible given the scale of the sign that was installed. The sign was, as an aside, it was approved by the BZA. The tenant moved through that and got that consent. And then subsequently, since this application went in, the paint scheme was actually finalized. So this, again, reflects some of the modifications that were made in the field.
Well, just to kind of reinforce a point, we had approved something, and then you guys went and did something else. I don't have a real problem with it, so it's not like making a federal case out of it. But if they continue to operate this way, I've been told that there's the restaurant approvals for the corner and some other future improvements. They need to stand by the agreements that they make with us, or this may not work to their favor at some point.
Understood. And for what it's worth, the round one piece of this project is now done. So the restaurant on the corner, they will have no part of that piece of this. I'm hopeful actually that I'll be able to come back up and visit you again next month or the following one with news of what we'll be installing in the corner, which will be a full-service restaurant, which is separate and apart from round one. And I do hope that the experience that we've gone through on these exterior pieces with round one will not impact the applicant for the corner space. But I do appreciate that there has been some pushing at the edges of what was approved, and I appreciate that that cannot be what happens going forward. I really do appreciate that.
So let me just clarify, round one is done.
They're done.
So we're not going to see any more changes coming in.
No more changes
Okay.
from round one. That is a guarantee.
Commissioners, any other questions for the applicant? So what we've got before us tonight is approval of something that's already been done.
Correct. It is, yes.
I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to approve. There's no conditions, but I'd like to add one condition, if I may. No further improvements and/or changes to the round one property shall be made without the prior approval of the planning commission.
Your agreement?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yes.
Is there a second?
Second.
Yes, when you're ready.
Mr. Sidoti.
Yes.
Mr. Tiedemann.
Yes.
Mr. Varga.
Yes.
Mr. Cook.
Yes.
Mr. Perkovic.
Yes.
Mr. Snow.
Yes.
Thank
Tell
you.
your client that they were in jeopardy of having this not be approved,
I will.
but we're not going to be real stinkers about it.
Well, I do appreciate it again. Thank you all for your consideration.
And we're taking you at your word that
Have it.
nothing else will change.
Nothing will change on that building without your consent.
Miscellaneous review of a transfer of CUP at 9055 Menor Avenue. There he is.
Hi, everybody. I'm David Klein. I'm the new owner of.
Did you bring any samples? I asked the salon.
I really actually thought about it, and I thought, I think that'd be not appropriate. I have some really good burgers there, though. Stop up sometime. I'll take care of you. Right now, today, we're talking about the patio. It's currently set up for a bar and dining area, which we like to keep. There are some conditions on there. One of them I did want to bring to the attention. I was concerned, or hopeful, I should say, is probably the right word, that possibly we could remove the ruling of the umbrellas. For the atmosphere of a sports bar, it would really be nice to be able to have a Corona umbrella or a Coors Light or maybe one of the craft beers so that it fits the atmosphere of the restaurant. I was wondering if that could be considered to be removed.
No, the sign code prohibits that form of advertising.
I thought this was the opportunity to ask, so I did.
So there, and you
That's
got your
it.
answer.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you for your time on that. So I'm just looking to be able to continue to use the patio in the same way it was used while it was Pacers, as dining and to have the bar area out there. Do not do live music at all, which is a condition that's on there. So there's no other challenges or issues there.
Know why that is.
Do I know why you guys don't allow
You're
music outside?
you're adjacent to a residential area. and
Oh, sure.
It's been problematic in the past.
I'm sure, absolutely. I was surprised when I heard the stories of this previous place, of how long and how it went, to be honest. I was surprised that, when it was the avenue and stuff.
Yeah.
No intention of it being like that at all. I'd like to be a local pub, place where people can go and enjoy a very good burger, some nice ribs, sit outside and relax. I have a bunch of little games, like a Rock'em Sock'em Robot, so when you have your family there, the kids can play. I guess I'm just sales pitching at this point, I'm sorry.
It's okay. Any comments from the administration?
Not at this time.
Okay. Commissioners, any questions, comments?
Chairman?
Mr. Varga?
The concern I had, and I want the city to respond if you could, that there's this, that there's a parking variance based on only about 50 spaces in lieu of 95 cars required for a restaurant this size. Now, are we still comfortable with that? That's a significant reduction in the required parking. Does the city have any opinion on that or issue with that, continuing that variance?
I don't know that there have been prior problems with the same use in terms of an overflow of parking.
Let me ask a question. On that same vein, do you have an agreement with Hobnobbers? Do you park in their lot?
Yes, I do. I carry the lease for the parking lot there so that we can use those additional spaces.
Okay.
I'm also in the midst of having, although I can't convince him to redo his parking lot, getting it restriped so to make it a more effective parking area for my guests.
Okay. Mr. Zeman, anything you'd want to see relative to that?
No, parking there has been a challenge for many, many years. Somehow it functions, but obviously the vacancy of the former Hobnobber space has alleviated the parking deficiency over there, but should it become occupied, it could become an issue again. But there's nowhere to pick up parking, and so it's a situation where, we've got a bit of a, there's a parking deficiency, and the business is just going to have to live with it, frankly. There's really not much we can do at this point.
Let me just finish my thought. The previous operator had valet parking service basically to deal with parking cars after their lot was filled, to put cars next door. So are you gonna use valet parking at all to try to solve that problem?
No, sir, I'm not.
So people will have to know to park in Hobnobbers?
Yes, I mean, there hasn't been, they've automatically done it. There's no signage and they automatically
Okay,
already.
well,
filled it with.
again, because I know some of the overflow sometimes tries to get on the adjacent street, and that's, there's only 3 spaces there. That's really not allowed for them to park on the street other than those 3 spaces. I was just wondering, because that's how the previous operator handled some of that parking stuff, was to have a...
I believe it won't be I don't think it'll be an issue at all because I do not have the bands. The issue came into place when they had the bands. Not only did you have the parking from the band, bringing a truck in, taking multiple spaces up, but in addition to that, you had a very large number of people coming in all at once. And now, with it being more of a local restaurant, we have a consistent flow, tables churning. So it's not we can fill, there's enough parking to accommodate the seating that's there. There isn't when you have standing room only with a band, and I think that's where the overflow was.
Okay. What about motorcycle parking? There was, at times, there was a segment of the
Crowd.
customers that were motorcyclists.
I enjoy
taking
riding a
up-
bike also, but I will not have specific parking for cyclists. They're welcome to put 2 bikes in one spot if they're comfortable doing that.
Bikes in one spot. Yeah,
They're
that's
welcome
fine.
to do that, but I will not be putting specific lines for them.
All right, that's all. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions?
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Sidoti?
when the prior owner appeared before the planning commission, I had mentioned to her that the stockade fence along the rear line of the property was beginning to deteriorate, and I asked her to please take action to repair it, get it back to standards so it doesn't deteriorate any further. Based on my inspection yesterday, that fence is really deteriorated badly. You have a lot of missing slats, broken slats, cracked slats. So what I'd like to do is delete condition number 5 or strike it and require you to replace or repair the stockade fence on or before July 31st, 2018.
Wouldn't that be the requirement of the property owner? I do pay a lease for him to handle those situations.
Well, can't we
We
funnel
could-
our authority our action through that lease?
Generally, we would treat that as a property maintenance issue, directed at the property owner and the tenant and, whomever, we would seek enforcement against whatever responsible party. I don't know that it's not an enforcement, but I think without the administration is aware that the fence is degraded, that an enforcement letter can be issued.
Okay. That's good. That's good. All right. And one last question. When I was out there yesterday, we had also given approval to the prior owner to enclose that little area on your back door that's at the western end of the building, because they constantly would go in and out for buckets or whatever they store in there. And what I saw yesterday, now was about a 5.5-foot board-on-board fence wrapping around that area with a brown canvas covering the rest of the area. I'm going to ask Larry in a second here, but I don't recall that we approved that canvas to be put up there like that. Larry, what did we approve for that opening?
The canvas was not approved. The commission saw back in December 2016 that enclosure, and was built with a fence and then the roof over top of it, because there was a doorway there, and the previous tenant said that they were having ice issues back there for their
Correct.
employees going in and out that door, slipping on ice during the colder months. So the commission did approve something, but they did not approve the tarp
Right.
that covers the gap.
Okay, well, we have to
Happily
correct.
take the tarp down. I put that up for the winter time. It was very, very cold, and the wind was beating there, and the snow was coming in. I just did it to protect the items that were in there. I really didn't even have intention of keeping it up as long as it has. Just with the transition, I hadn't gotten to removing it. I will take it down. I did not realize that I was skipping a step for putting it up. In the winter time, I will come and approach you for a temporary tarp, again, appropriately. It wasn't intentional to skip that.
Mr. Chairman, are we okay with the possibility of them increasing the height of that fence to give them a little more protection?
I think that would be an appropriate move. Could you do that? Could you raise the height of the fence?
I could
Because
absolutely
you
raise
could
that.
take some of that stockade fence that's there and use it to repair the,
Sir. Yes, sir, I would absolutely.
One hand washes the other.
so let's look at that.
I will take a look at that. In my understanding, that would be a separate issue to bring forward, or is that something
Well,
where?
we can include it as a condition here.
Okay.
Is that okay with you, Mr. Sidoti?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, thank you.
Anything else for the applicant?
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Perkovic?
one of the comments in the main body is that the applicant would like to install an enclosure on the outside bar, and the administration said they would recommend that that become a separate application, for at a later date to address that. Is that what condition number 6 is entailing? That canopy shall not include sides or an enclosure without prior approval of planning commission. Okay, thank you.
So you'll make another application for that.
Yes, I realize I wasn't ready to do that yet. I still need to shop around and make sure, get the measurements and what it would cost, and be able to bring something forward with a drawing, a rendering, and all the important information. And I'm sure the building department will probably be interested to see it also.
Right.
So I realized that it was premature to bring that up, and it's already listed in the conditions
Okay.
that
Thank you.
to be discussed. Thank you for pointing out.
Mr. Sidoti, you want to verbalize your condition?
Yes. Motion to approve with 9 conditions. The 9th condition being the applicant shall remove the tarp wrapped around the open/storage area at the rear of the property at the western end of said site. Applicant shall have the option, with appropriate approvals, to extend the stockade fence up to the overhang.
You're in agreement with that?
I absolutely agree with that. I think that's a great idea. It'll look a lot better. I appreciate that. Thank
Yes,
you.
okay, thank you, thank you.
Is there a second?
Second.
Yes.
Mr. Sidoti?
Yes,
Mr. Tiedemann?
Yes.
Mr. Varga?
Yes.
Mr. Cook?
Yes.
Mr. Perkovic?
Yes,
Mr. Snow?
Yes. Good.
thank you.
Thank you very much.
How's business?
It's going the right direction. We're getting a lot of good reviews, good feedback from the city. The burgers are going over very well. When you have a chance, come on up and have dinner. You really will be impressed. There's very good food there. Got a good kitchen manager, and they're doing a good job.
Yeah, good.
good luck.
And thank you very much. I actually did bring menus. I'll leave a couple if anybody wants.
Sorry, you got to pay full price.
That's okay. We have been. Architecture review, reimaging a commercial building at 7206 Justin Way.
Yeah, it is.
If you'd identify yourself for the clerk, please.
My name is Robert Powell. I'm the architect for IRG, the owner of the building, and also the tenant Orbis.
And what do you want to do with that location?
Well, we're here today because we want to, basically, we're repainting the front of the building, and we wanted to do a little bit of re-imaging on the front. So this is what we have out there today. Is the old entrance when it was, I believe, Caterpillar or Toe Lift. It hasn't been changed since the building was built in the 60s. So Orbis is moving in from further down the street into this newer facility, about doubling their square footage of what they have. They're staying within the city, moving into space. But they would like a new entrance that's more fitting towards their corporate structure, make it look a little nicer. So basically, in addition to repainting the entire face of the building, we're also just going to spruce up the front of the entrance with just a little bit of an architectural feature wall that will be in their Orbis green colors. All the glass is being replaced, and we're also just refacing the fascia of the old canopy with kind of a darker gray aluminum, just to match.
So how much square footage are you taking? How many square feet are you taking?
The existing building is over 1 million square feet. Orbis's space is 300,000 square feet of the building.
So roughly a third.
Roughly a third of it. It's going to fill a large chunk of that empty building.
Okay.
We already have the drawings in the building department for permitting in the inside stuff. It's just this outside piece, this reimaging, is what we're here for today.
Questions, commissioners?
I also have, a larger picture here, and we also have the actual color chips, if you would.
So are you taking the entire front section?
We are, We are painting, the Orbis is basically from, actually, I have a good drawing, that's Orbis here. So Orbis is taking basically this whole chunk of the eastern building. Vicon renovated and added this space about 6 months ago. They added this area here. We are actually going to be repainting everything from this corner all the way to here. So
So
we're
that-
repainting not just the Orbis piece, but the entire front of the eastern building,
That was
as
my
well as the
question.
connector section.
That
Oh,
was
no,
my
we wouldn't
question.
look,
I know,
yeah, we're painting all of it.
okay. I'm sorry, go right ahead.
Yeah, yeah, basically, we're painting the whole thing. The center section here is still unoccupied, but, yeah, they're always looking at filling with tenants, but.
Okay. Commissioners, any questions for the applicant?
Mr. Chairman?
Mr. Varga?
Just want a little clarity on what you were just saying, and there's a note in the analysis by the city that says that the main body of the warehouse, along with the upper portion of the entrance area, will be a certain color, and the lower area will be painted a certain color, so you're not just talking about the entry, one-story entry piece, you're talking about
Yes.
the eastern warehouse segment. And you're only talking about painting the front or the sides also?
This picture here shows the remainder of the eastern side of the building. That we're painting the complete entire northern facade of the building.
Right, but when you come to the corner, one side is going to be painted on this building, one side is going to be this
So-
lighter.
So that we're painting
tan
from this
color?
point here all the way to this point.
Yeah.
Right, we are not painting all the way around the entire building. The colors are not so drastically different. The main purpose of this was really to clean up the building. The building hasn't been painted in 50 years since it was built. And our colors are not so, I mean, the existing building is sort of a gray and tans.
Right.
Our new ones are basically gray tans, and it's mostly, it will be a difference as you turn the corner. I mean, but the cost of painting a 1 million square foot building around the back is, I mean, this is already exorbitant already for them to repaint the
I
face of the
understand.
building.
I guess it's just my instincts are that this may look strange when the color pattern and the finishes change at the corner when you drive. You see this building easily from the eastern side. I'm not trying to spend all your money. I'm just trying to discuss the fact that it's kind of unusual that the elevational colors change at the corner and that the material continues. Is there any possibility that you would just paint the metal siding above the loading docks with your proposed color to kind of tie that north and east face together? Not to address the loading dock level, but
So you're saying just repaint the entrance piece here and not repaint all that? the rest of
No, I'm actually saying to repaint what you have here on the north side, but also paint the metal siding on the east side above the loading docks. Right, that's, the loading docks are facing the east?
No, the loading docks are facing north. We're painting these, this is a continuation of, the loading docks are right here. This is right here.
That's the loading docks.
Okay, well, I was trying to show this one, which is a bigger man, but,
I don't remember the loading
They
docks.
have that though.
okay, so. Our entrance is right here.
Right?
And you can see the loading docks are right
The
here.
loading docks are on the front, okay.
And
I'm
we're
sorry.
painting all the way from here, all the way to here.
Mm-hmm.
So including the loading docks.
I'm just kind of struggling with the idea of painting one face of a building.
Well, the other option is we could just paint this and not paint that at all.
No, I understand that,
So
that would be an option too.
we could limit our painting to just the entrance, but we wanted to paint the whole rest of the building just to clean it up. But if it's an issue about painting all the remainder of the building, then we could just limit our painting to just repainting
Yeah,
the
and I'm not
entrance.
trying to ask you to paint the whole rest of the building, but I was just trying to think of something that would not be so inconsistent to change it right at the corner, you know?
But it's not like we're changing it from, blue to white. I mean, we're going from a light gray tan to another light gray, more of a beigey color.
Well, okay, let me just kind of go back to the beginning of my conversation and say, I'd like to see it improved with the painting that you're doing on the north side. And I guess unless someone else has a problem with it, maybe that's good enough for right now. Is there any, I know you're not speaking for the rest of the building, but do you kind of know of any other improvements going to happen to this building?
We're adding, currently there's another project in the building on the back of the building. We're renovating about 80,000 square feet on the back corner, this corner right here, right now, on the back half.
I guess what I'm getting at is that as the building is piecemeal occupied with, it would be nice to eventually see the whole building improved,
All right,
I'm
and
not,
this
I'm
is
not
why-
dumping, I'm not trying to dump it on any one tenant,
Yeah.
but I also don't want to see the building improved in a piecemeal section, way too, where this corner, this piece, and not.
But they got such a large tent that is taking over a significant portion of the eastern building. That's why they wanted to paint at least the entire front of that building. The side tenant is not Orbis.
And so why would you paint it, right?
And they can, they're not paying for that. So,
understand.
I mean, I feel that I would be, we wouldn't get up and accept me if I was to say, maybe I could say we could repaint the entrance and we could come out and clean the rest of the building off, at least the north and the east side. Pressure wash it, so at least it'll look newer than it does instead of painting it.
Does the city?
I can't, say to paint the eastern side of the building,
I
that's
understand.
a couple $100,000.
Yeah, I understand, and you're not in the position to make that deal right now. But does the city have any notion about how they feel about part of the building being painted and other parts of the building not being painted?
I think
That are all visible as you drive by?
one of the things we just discussed is the proximity and the distance of that building to the road. It is set back a good distance.
And there's some things now built in front of it too, to some degree. All right. Well, I just wanted to have that discussion. I don't know that it's a deal breaker on my part, but I wanted to see if we could explore how this building comes into eventually being improved in total. You're not the owner of the building.
No, but I mean, I could,
At some point, it would be suggested as they make improvements, they also improve the exterior of the building. And if they completely reoccupy the building, that at the end, it should look like a completely improved building.
the chances of being able to get a new 1 million square foot tenant to occupy the entire building all at once is.
Or piecemeal. I'm just trying to, relative to the city.
So Polychem's in part of the building, correct? Aren't they in the front portion?
I think they're in this office section up front here.
Okay. And your square footage became available because somebody moved out?
I don't know, what they've been trying to fill that section for a while. No, actually, no, this was probably, I don't know, Polychem may have been in that area. I don't know who was in that space before, but they've been out for
A while.
a year.
Okay, so that's been vacant for a year, roughly?
Taken for as long as I've been working the job, which is nearly a year.
Okay. So.
Because I've been involved in the building, doing the Vicon expansion over here, because we grew into that space because the space was available, because whoever was there had
And
moved
now
out.
you have 80,000 square feet to the west? that's
Yeah, there's
being
about another 80,000 square feet that's moving in right here.
Okay.
I think they're slated to actually occupy the space in less than a month.
And the only exposure they have is the southern exposure and a little bit on the west side, probably, right?
Yeah, right, yeah, they're basically, their facade is on the loading dock, basically the truck yard in the back.
Okay. So I think that answers it.
Yeah, well, I don't think, my concern isn't great enough not to have you proceed with what you're planning on doing, because it would improve the appearance of the building. I mean, I was just trying to see if a logic or a framework in which the rest of the building gets improved at some, down the road or in some logic, that's all,
That's what we didn't try to drastically change the color so much that it wouldn't be.
No, it's an improvement from what's there now, and let's just, I'll kind of withdraw my concerns.
Any other commissioners?
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Sidoti?
2 quick questions. Has this real estate been partitioned and Orbis is going to purchase their portion, or is this
No,
going to be?
they're leasing it. They have I believe a 10-year lease.
Are you planning any site improvements to the parking lot?
not as far as what we're doing. We're limited to the building itself.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Anyone else? Okay, I'll entertain a motion. And you brought color samples along, right?
Like the paint samples here.
Okay. And you'll give those to the administration?
Yeah, here you go.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to approve with the 4 conditions listed.
Second.
Mr. Sidoti.
Yes.
Mr. Tiedemann.
Yes.
Mr. Varga.
Yes.
Mr. Cook.
Yes.
Mr. Perkovic.
Yes.
Mr. Snow.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Relatively easy for you, right?
Yeah, I was hoping. Last time I was here, it was almost 10 o'clock when I got here, so I was really surprised to be out here so quick, and being so
Now
far
you-
down on the
Now you
list.
go over to the
Well,
Mean Mugs Pub and
Get a
have
hamburger.
some dinner.
Gotta go to my mother-in-law's house and fix her ceiling in her bathroom, so.
You want us to ask you some more
Yeah, I was
questions?
gonna say, maybe you'd like to talk about this some more.
I would probably do that. Thank you very much.
Okay, number 9, code amendments, fences, and hedges. Any thoughts?
Well, Mr. Chairman, we have had presented this to you prior as a draft, and we were ready to proceed with the changes. There was one minor change that was highlighted and presented tonight with regard to decorative fences. This has kind of been a work in progress as I think is really, actually, we truly apply the fence regulations in real time. And I think the proposed changes definitely provide more clarity both to the applicant as well as to the staff in terms of enforcement.
Okay.
So, we'd like to move forward with these changes as presented.
Commissioners, any questions of the administration? Mr. Zeman, any comments you'd like to make?
No, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Larry, any comments?
None.
Okay. I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to approve?
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Yes.
Mr. Sidoti.
Yes.
Mr. Tiedemann.
Yes.
Mr. Varga.
Yes.
Mr. Cook.
Yes.
Mr. Perkovic.
Yes.
Mr. Snow.
Yes. Okay, next one. Another code amendment, Chapter 1155.01, Industrial Park, to add as a conditional use drive-through facilities. Mr. Zeman, any comments?
No, if it's not self-explanatory, I'll be happy to answer any questions that you have. It would just be an additional line item, new section, new line 35 in the MIP district regulations.
Okay, Commissioners, any questions for the administration?
Yeah, I have a question. So we allow a restaurant, but we don't allow drive-in or drive-through? That's the
Correct.
crux of the issue?
Correct.
And anybody who has a restaurant these days wants a drive-through, right?
I wouldn't say anybody, but
I mean,
obviously a lot of the fast service facilities certainly do. Yeah.
The only, I don't have a problem with it as the subject, but the only concern I have is that, and we were talking about this not in session, but when a restaurant has a drive-in requirement, it requires a larger piece of property than it would if it just had a restaurant and the required parking associated with it. And because of previous projects that have been in front of us and other issues that have come up, is there any way to suggest that there is a requirement of scale, of size of property, or an increase, or something that would allow us to be able to facilitate the drive-through without having, 6 pounds in a 4-pound bag issue?
That's always been handled on a case-by-case basis, which is sort of at the heart of why a CUP may or may not issue at a particular location. Obviously, some of the variables is the operator, what volume of business is the operator doing at peak times, and does the site accommodate sufficient stacking for that amount of traffic? So I don't know that we can be overly formulistic about it. Obviously, if a particular site is simply too small, based upon those metrics, then a CUP probably shouldn't issue at that location. But again, I don't know how to be overly formulaic about it, frankly.
Okay. But we still have that judgment that we could
Yes.
just reject the CUP for the drive-through if there's none, if it doesn't work properly.
Correct. If the evidence establishes that it's not an appropriate location, again, based on whatever appropriate metrics are presented, then obviously your vote would reflect that.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else?
None.
I entertain a motion.
Motion to approve?
Second.
Jess?
Mr. Sidoti.
Yes.
Mr. Tiedemann.
Yes.
Mr. Varga.
Yes.
Mr. Cook.
Yes.
Mr. Pergovic.
Yes.
Mr. Snow.
Yes. Anything else under the director's report?
No, sir.
Thank you. Anything else for the good of the cause?
Sun's still up.
Excuse me.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.